Hi all, I'm Libby, proud captain of Millwall Lionesses. Thank you to our Millwall fan show from the No One Likes Us Talking team for sponsoring me this year. Make sure you give them a listen like I do. Or even better, why not sponsor a Lioness while you're at it like they do? Thank you always for your continued support.
This podcast is a proud member of the Fan Hub 100. Football without fans is nothing, so we've partnered with Fan Hub to put fans first. Search Fan Hub app to play your part in the journey.
Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us Talking team, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
It is the 6th show of COVID-19 in lockdown 3.0 here in England. I'm your host, Eamonn Barclay, and I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Jeff Burnige, Stan Godwin and Bethany Warren.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
We've still got a couple of urgent requests out there. Sean Daly of the Millwall Community Trust is desperate for volunteers to deliver their support to the community. Every day he's losing team members due to self-isolation requirements. Call Sean on 07958 027060 if you can help. That's 07958 027060, and that's Sean Daly. The Lions Food Hub, based at the Rennie and Manor Estate Tenants and Residents Association Hall in Birmingham City, are looking for food and financial support. A big shout for Husky for pushing a load of drinks in there this last week. To help them, you can find Lions Food Hub on Twitter and Facebook. So that's the urgent bits at the moment. So, 4-1 win on Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday. Bethany, what did you make of that?
My goodness. Well, at first, when obviously we were 1-0 down, it was one of those moments where you go, yep, all right then, here we go. We're going to hold tight for the rest of the game and it's just going to be a bit of a rubbish one. And then we levelled out and we thought, oh, okay. And then it was like, 2, all right, nice. And then, 3. And then 4. It was incredible. Me and Dad were just sitting there like, are we watching the team that we've been watching for the past couple of months? It was great. Great day, and long may it continue.
Stan?
Well, it was a surprise, I have to say, and but then probably thinking about it, it was probably when we were going to turn it round. I guess we would turn it round big time. Didn't quite expect that. I thought he was good. I thought everyone played well. I mean, I thought John Daddy Bavasan, I mean, he worked like a Trojan, right? You know, people criticise him, but he makes a lot of space for people around him to score. Sahor scored the penalty. Scott Malone, well, I tell you what, if that had been Messi scoring that goal, we'd have been raving about it, you know. It was a very good performance all round. Even Ben Thompson, I mean, his goal was it was a good goal, I have to say. And it was excellent. It was an excellent all-round performance.
Yeah, he was still skidding around a bit, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he does. Yeah, I mean, I'm beginning to think his middle name should be called Ben Lino Thompson.
Yeah.
No, he played well. I mean, I'm glad in a way, really, because, you know, we get accused of people not liking him and whatever. But the only thing I say about Ben Thompson is he a championship player or potentially a potential championship player. That's the issue for me. And if he carries on playing like he did the other day, he will get better and he will grow into being a championship player.
Great. Jeff, what do you reckon?
Well, I think the win was coming. We have been playing better for the last 4 or 5 games. The defence was back on form, looking confident. You know, we had Hutch and Cooper back to their best. Scott Malone settling in nicely, surprising me with how well he was doing. Danny McNamara had come in, although for that game it was Marlon, wasn't it? That looked fine. So I wasn't surprised we won. I don't think anyone thought we'd score 4. particularly as Wednesday were on good form themselves. I mean, they'd won 4 of the previous 5, I think, and they won in midweek after losing to us. So that looks a good result. We mustn't forget, though, that we did lose Ryan Leonard and Michael Kieftenbelt to injury. Let's hope Michael Kieftenbelt's not too bad, because we don't want 2 midfielders injured at the same time. Having said that, the subject of Ben Thompson, I'm in disagreement with quite a few fans. I think Ben Thompson is a championship player.
I agree.
I think he's the James Milner at Liverpool. Is he as good a player as Mo Salah? No. Is he as good a player as Virgil van Dijk? No. But he makes the team work, and I think we're a better team when Ben Thompson's in it. It's the intensity, it's the ground he covers, it's the fact that he can get up and join the strikers and break things up as well. The only thing is, he puts so much effort in, he gets engaged in the game so many times that he will make a few mistakes in a game because he's doing so much. And he did make a mistake, actually. Was it for their goal or for a chance that they made? And Gary Rowett took him off fairly soon after. No, I love Ben Thompson. I hope he's in the starting lineup for the rest of the season. He probably won't be, but let's hope he is.
Well, we were at 6s and 7s for the first 30 minutes of that game on Saturday, and it wasn't until Zahore's penalty that we came to light. Well, perhaps we started to come to life before that. But the second half and whatever he said at half-time made a real big difference. And long may it continue. And some good points there, particularly about young Thompson. It was a good team effort in the end, 4-1. Well, we'll take a break there and be back with our first guest this evening. But for now, let's listen to what Fantastic Fanatics can offer our club.
Hi, I'm Richard Gordon, and I'd like to invite you to become a Fantastic Fanatic. Fantastic Fanatics is a great way to raise funds for your sports club. Sign up today, find your club, and securely register your everyday debit and credit cards. Every time you spend with our retail partners, they pay a percentage back to your club. It costs you nothing, and you can win cash prizes along the way. Visit fantasticfanatics.com and help your club be the best it can be.
I'm Eamonn Barclay, and I'm back with a No One Likes a Talking team of Jeff Burnige, Stan Godwin and Bethany Warren. I've signed up for Fantastic Fanatics online, and there are a wide range of quality online outlets, and when you buy from them, a percentage will go to our community trust. Having trouble finding us? Don't forget, search for Spreaker and then just sub-search Millwall No One Likes Us Talking. We can also be found on Twitter and Facebook via our website, noonelikesUsTalking.com, and Talking's without a G, or on all the popular podcast sites of the web. Our first guest tonight was born north of the river in Walthamstow. His first club was non-league side Leighton Wingate in the Isthmian League, where he played as a striker. The club closed at the end of the 1989-90 season, and he and his then manager headed south to Bromley, where he played a few pre-season friendlies and then promptly left for the Den for 30,000 plus 20,000 on the 20th of August 1990. With us, he made his most appearances, 127 in all, 17 of which were from the bench, and scored 37 goals. Just over, 3 goals a game there, not bad return. After 4 years at the Den, he was sold to Wimbledon for a joint fee with Kenny Cunningham of 1.3 million on the 9th of November 1994. And I thought that was a terrible bit of business, Jeff. On leaving us for Top Flight Dons, he gained further honours as a Republic of Ireland international. He never truly recovered from an injury in 1997, and at the turn of the century, he hung his playing boots up. He has held a number of positions, from being a sports scientist at Reading to coaching, and currently, 2019, he became academy coach, where he remains today with Milton Keynes Dons. we welcome to the show the one and only John Goodman. Hi, John.
Hi, Eamonn. Thanks for the introduction. Lovely to be on board with you.
It's great. They might even say hello to you as well, the others.
Hello, John.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Hi, John. I want to argue with Eamonn about whether that was a good deal or not. But
you will. We'll have a big row about that later.
If that hadn't gone through, my cheque was being presented the next day to keep the club going. So I was in favour of that transfer going through.
That was one of those sales they've got to go. Fire sale, they used to call them, didn't they, Jeff? I seem to remember.
Something like that. I didn't like doing it, but
there you go.
There you are.
All right. Before I let the team chat with you, John, tell us about how Bromley got a great finder's fee when you joined Millwall.
Yeah. So non-league football being what it is, I had been at Leighton Wingate for 2 or 3 seasons. My dad had run the Sunday team. Our Sunday team fed into the non-league team. So I played reserve team football at Leighton Wingate, got into the first team under the then manager George Wakeling. And as you mentioned in the intro, the club, I think, was a little bit wobbly financially. And so the back end of one season, I guess the 89-90 season, George pulled us all into the room and said, listen, he's got an opportunity to go to Bromley. George lived down and way, and had good connections with Millwall as well. But he'd been at Leighton Wingate a long time, and he had an opportunity to go to Bromley and be their manager. And he took us all across in the summer with no contracts as such in them days. And I remember going into the boardroom. I was a student at South Bank Polytechnic in South London as well. And when I met the board, obviously I was a little bit intimidated or daunted by it as a young lad. I was 18 at the time. George was like, this lad's got a chance. He's going to sign a contract, but we're not going to stand in his way if there's a reasonable offer made. And it was just a flick of a switch, I guess. I'd been a young lad that was a late developer that ended up that summer, fully maturing. Had a very good pre-season with Bromley. We had some very good pre-season matches, one against Millwall on the Saturday and then Leighton Orient on the Tuesday. And the following day after the Leighton Orient game, I had a phone call from George, who said come round his house and meet Bob Pearson. And from there on, negotiations had been done, and thankfully went with my dad and signed as a professional footballer.
And as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, there's a few twists and turns along the way, I guess, and Bob Pearson, again, Jeff would know, wonderful man, fantastic relationship with the chairman, had a keen eye for a player, I guess, and I was anxious about joining the club. I knew Paul Goddard, I knew Teddy Sheringham, I knew Malcolm Allen, and I'm thinking, how do I fit into this equation of these are 3 top strikers? They're just fallen out of the first division or the Premier League as it is now, and so I had a lot of doubt about whether it was a good move for me, just in terms of was I capable of being a professional footballer. But Bob reassured me, said you'll be in the team by Christmas, and I wasn't too far away with that assessment.
Hello,
Pleasure.
John. Bethany, it's nice to talk to you.
Hi, Bethany.
My dad speaks really highly of you, scoring goals and having great pace. He said you ran a race at Wembley. Could you tell us and tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's probably, I didn't win many trophies as a footballer, and probably one of my stronger moments to get to Wembley, albeit in a different capacity. So there was a programme called Saint and Greasy, which was a Saturday afternoon football show. It was fantastic, really. Ian St John and Jimmy Greaves, and for some reason this season, I think it was in the early 90s, 91 maybe, there was an electrical company called Rumbelows, and they decided to run a competition called the Rumbelows Sprint Challenge to find the fastest footballer in football, and it buzzed around. And I remember being at the club at the time, and funnily enough, we had a sprint coach that used to come in on a Monday afternoon and work with us all around our running mechanics and whatever else, and it wasn't necessarily our session of choice. But as this Rumbelows Sprint Challenge started circulating, we all started taking a little bit more interest in our movement, etc. And we had a few races, and there was some quick lads at the time. I think Chris Armstrong had joined us from Wrexham, and Chris could shift, but I just had a little bit more than him over 100 metres. And so It was pretty much every footballer, or one footballer from each club in the country, did regional heats. I went down to Crystal Palace athletics track and raced against a number of lads. I think Stan Collingwood might have been one of the lads we raced against. I seem to remember him from Crystal Palace, and Tony Witter from QPR, who Tony later joined us to Millwall. Anyway, so got through the heats, came second in the final there. Next thing, we're at finals at Wembley, and it was bizarre. You know, they put us in a hotel the night before in Watford. It was before the League Cup final, and Teddy Sheringham was playing for Forest against, I don't know, that might be Man U that was playing. And I remember the Spring Challenge was going on as the lads are doing their walkabout in their suits before the game. And Teddy, he's looked across and he said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I was a bit sheepish, really, a bit embarrassed to say, "Well, I'm doing this Sprint Challenge thing." And he just started laughing. And anyway, yeah, so I did get there, albeit I didn't qualify for the final there. There was some real quick ones, and a lad called John Williams, who played for Notts County, he was the postman, they called him. I think he'd come from non-league. He won it. But yeah, Mum and Dad were in the crowd, funnily enough, to see me on Wembley, but probably for the wrong reasons.
Going back to when you signed, obviously you didn't realise, obviously, but it was that pre-season game against Millwall that we saw you. That's where Bob saw you, and by then George Wakeling, who you mentioned, who I think was a Millwall fan, he told me he was. Whether it was after tickets or not, I don't know. But he told me he was, and he was very strong. He said, "No, you got to come and see this," and he pushed it. And Bob, as you correctly said, he was pushing it as well. And with pace like you had, it was, you couldn't miss it. You couldn't miss it. George Wakeling, by the way. He also tried to get Millwall to sign another player. He was assistant manager with Bill Smith at Tooting and Mitcham. We played them in a friendly. Same story. Come down with the reserve team. We've got a player just come out the youth team. He played on the right wing against Millwall for Tooting and Mitcham, aged 18, and we didn't sign him. His name was Michael Antonio. So I think George Wakeling was a very, very good judge of a player. I do.
He had a great track record in. Funny enough, I've missed a call from George today. He was a very good mentor to me, and you're right. He had a real passion for Millwall and had an enormous knowledge of non-league football. And he could be tough with me even as a young lad. He was demanding, but there was a lovely nature to him as well, a little twinkle in his eye, and like you say, he'd back a winner. He was a shrewd man.
Just following up on that, tell me about that first few weeks at the club. What was it like under Bruce Rioch and Ian McNeill? What was the atmosphere like at the club, having just got relegated?
Well, I remember signing the forms. I think, as you mentioned there, when I'd played the pre-season friendly against Millwall, it was a Millwall Select 11 because the senior squad was abroad in Ireland on a pre-season tour. So, excuse me, they'd just come back. I signed forms, and there was a game that night. I think it was Hibernian. It was a Scottish team. Possibly Hibernian, Falkirk. It might have been a connection to Alex Ray. Anyway, I watched the game. And Bruce Rioch had done a fantastic job. I think he was trying to change the perception of the club on the pitch. He changed the style. Very good footballing team. Malcolm Allen, very good footballer. Alex Ray got into the side. Teddy, obviously. Jimmy Carter on the wing. Les Briley, Terry, Kevin O'Callaghan was there at the time. It was a very strong football side. So I arrived and I went with the reserves initially. But you'd look across and you'd see Terry. You see legends. In my world, these guys were legends. And Bruce was very strict. I think the rules were you had to be clean shaven. You had to wear. You couldn't wear jeans to training. Little things like that to try and instill some further discipline. So you had Bruce and Ian McNeill, who were very, I guess, not standoffish, but clear disciplinarians. And to counter it, you had Steve Harrison, who was a wonderful coach. and just the most charming, wonderful sense of humour. Dad, I think, was from Blackpool originally and was an entertainer. And Harry had some lovely traits, very caring man. And, very early on, I did quite well in a few reserve games. Got on the bench a few times for the first team back in September. So I joined in August. In September, me and Kenny are on the bench for a few home games, and the team were flying, playing some lovely stuff. Results, so everything was good. But there was an aura around Bruce that was a little bit intimidating. Without necessarily, it was more out of combination of respect and I guess a little bit of fear. He'd call you out, he'd be strict, he'd be firm, and Harry was the lovely counterbalance to that, and Harry used to take me out every morning, 10 o'clock before we started training at 10:30, crossing and finishing, and he'd be running down the left wing, recreating all his yesteryears, firing it across for me, and I'd be trying to stick it into an empty net, so he's very, very, very good to me, Harry, in terms of developing me as a player.
Well, he was a good enough coach to go on a big England's coach, wasn't he?
He was, and obviously then, I've discussed it before in terms of the situation when he left the club, which was, really upsetting, and probably losing Harry, as much for his personality around the place, his knowledge and coaching. Bruce was not a great coach. That again, he's a manager. Ian was more a recruiter and a supporter to Bruce. So when Harry left, there was a vacuum there that removed the relationship probably between senior management and the playing staff.
Yeah, John, it's Stan here again, mate. Teddy was ever present in that season. What was it like playing alongside him?
Well, it was a lesson. I'm coming from non-league. Firstly, I went to the same school as Teddy, albeit he's maybe 5 or 6 years older than me. So we had, growing up, Teddy was a role model and a lad that you aspired to be. So when I joined Millwall, I introduced myself to him. Said I went to the same school, and again, Teddy had a confidence bordering on arrogance. And again, not in a he knew his worth, and he knew he was a good player, and he had status amongst the lads. So he swatted me back a little bit and put me back in my place. But I was incredibly raw. I was a midfielder. I never played as a striker as a kid. Played as a midfielder that scored goals from midfield. George Wakeling stuck me up front because I was quick. So I was trying to learn the game. I was learning as a non-league player, and then you jumped up a number of levels, and you're learning, in Division 2, in competitive matches or in training where it matters and it's really important. So Ted was just, not only him and Malcolm Allen in particular, they really helped me. I was in direct competition, particularly with Malcolm and Paul Goddard around, trying to get a first team place. But they pulled me to one side, talk about movements, talk about finishing, talk about not losing confidence if you miss a couple of chances, because I would miss loads of chances because technically I was nowhere near their level. And I remember really early on when I made my debut, and I struggled physically. Although I was fit and I could run, I was running around like a lunatic, and Teddy would be like, "John, breathe." Every time the ball went off the side of the pitch, "Come on, get your breath now, dig in." And so I was in awe of him, if I'm honest. He carried me, I think. Although I think I contributed, I played 20 odd games that season. He scored the goals that got the pressure off of me to have to score the goals, and got the pressure off the team to have to score the goals. You had Teddy and Alex Ray in particular. There was goals in that team. And I contributed with a few. I helped Teddy get a few. But listen, he was the standout player that season. And, it was a lesson for me in terms of what the finished article looks like. And obviously he went on to develop even further.
Nice. You were called up for the Republic of Ireland in the 96-97 season when you left us. You joined former Lions and existing Lions in the Republic squad. There was Tony Cascarino, Terry Cunningham, Mark Kennedy, Keith Brannigan and Richard Sadler, for whom we had great hope. So how did that come about, and what are your best memories of that before injury struck you?
Yeah, it's a really long story based upon my dad, who had been adopted as a child. His adopted mother passed away, he then, once she passed away, he wanted to investigate a little bit further about his own history. He was an East London fella, or North London lad, my dad. He's Glazer, no connection, no thought process that he's Irish. Okay, so I'd never even contemplated or crossed my mind. When he started investigating it and went to the adoption agency and looked at where he to find his birth certificate, it transpired that his mum was Irish. So then he started going down that path and met his real mum, and it was a lovely story from my dad. So off the back of that, so this is when it happened when I'm about 23, 24, 25. I'm now at Wimbledon. I discovered that I can get an Irish passport. So I happened to be at Wimbledon. I wasn't playing. I was in the bar. Ian Evans is in there scouting, and I say, Taffy, because now Ian's working with Mick, the Irish manager. I said, Taffy, I think I can get an Irish passport. And he started laughing. He thought I was winding him up. Yeah, you're having a pint of Guinness. Yeah, I can see that one, goodie. I said, no, I'm serious. He said, well, if you can, let Mick know. So anyway, I did. Went through the process and got an Irish passport. The weirdest thing, I get the Irish passport, I let Mick know. None of the Wimbledon lads know I've got this Irish passport. And as it was in them days, the squad was announced on the teletext. So we're coming in from training, and Dean Holsworth of Vinny, one of the guys, they come out, hey, what? There's a mistake. Your name's in the Irish squad. What's going on? And I started laughing. I said, I can't believe that. So I hadn't even actually got the passport. The application had just gone in. Anyway, so that was it. I went to Ireland. Like you said, I had a few connections. Kenny Cunningham, Mark Kennedy, and Tony Cascarino that we all played together in that first game. I played Wales away, made my debut. Had a very, very good game. And I'm a fair judge of myself. But I played very well on the night. Didn't score. It was a 0-0 game, but there was players like Dennis Irwin and Roy Keane and Steve Staunton and Andy Townsend and Ray Houghton. Vinny was actually playing for Wales as captain as Wales alongside Gary Speed. You can feel a little bit fraudulent because I had no real connection to Ireland. No Irish accent, no affinity as such, but the lads were incredibly welcoming. And I wasn't the only one, like I say, Andy Townsend and Cass, very similar. Ray Houghton had a peculiar accent that was Scottish, Cockney, Irish. So a merry band and a wonderful experience and a great learning opportunity for me.
Actually, John, very similar. In fact, yours is a bit clearer than mine, but we'll have a listen to Stan's one now.
Right, okay. Just one thing I'm interested to know. You say you went to Ireland, John. Did you ever come across in any way, shape or form, and I mean, he hadn't have been he wasn't the manager then, but did you ever come across Jack Charlton just out of interest? That's the first question. And the other one I was going to ask you was, you're an academy manager now, and you must have crossed paths at Wimbledon with Scott Fitzgerald, our academy manager. But tell me, there are mixed views about academies today versus old apprenticeships, where the players played much more frequently than they do today. Now, before you answer that, because it's an interesting one, because I ask this question all the time of different people, because when I talk about the academy, I'm talking about in terms of the playing the matches, right? There's a lot of people like Glenn Oddle, and I heard Ray Wilkins say it, and I remember talking to Phil Coleman was another one. And the general view was that the academies, as opposed to the South East counties or as it used to be then or whatever, is not as good as it. And, what's your take on all that?
I'll do my best because there's a few questions in there.
True.
Firstly, Jack Charlton, met him once. We was up north. It might have been with Wimbledon. Or I can't remember. It might be Millwall because Mick McCarthy and Kenny, or it might be Wimbledon again because of Kenny. I think it might be Millwall. Anyway, so I just remember we played a game and Jack had been at the game and he was the Ireland manager at that moment in time. Mm-hmm. He comes on the bus and the guy's enormous. His head is enormous. His ears are enormous, and he had this lovely rosy complexion on his face. His red cheeks, and real happy-go-lucky character. And he pulled Kenny to one side at the back of the bus and was like, listen, you're going to get into one of my squads at some stage. Well done today, kid. And, so that's my one abiding memory of Jack. I don't think I would have exchanged words with him myself. Second question about Scott Fitzgerald. No, Scott incredibly well. We was together at Wimbledon for about a season before he moved to Millwall. We went away on holiday, one end of season tour to Tenerife. Shared a room with Scott, and I've got plenty of ammunition on him if I ever need it. So we're negotiating a player between MK Dons and Millwall at academy level. I'll definitely have a few trump cards to pull on him. And then it's a really good question about the academy system. I'm afraid to some degree football sold its soul. With category status now and training compensation rights. The world's a different place, and there was a lot of good stuff. So I remember Tom Wally being the youth team coach at Millwall when I joined. He had Mark Kennedy, Tony Dolby, Andy Roberts. There was Ben Thatcher would have been in that group. There was a very, Millwall we'd play South East counties. I think they might have won the FA Youth Cup, and it was competitive within that South East region. So they'd play against Arsenal and Tottenham and Chelsea, whatever else. But probably the spread of players was better. So that, not everyone was at Chelsea and not all the best players were at Arsenal. That it was spread territorially. And I think what the categories, the EPP and, what category status has now done, in their wisdom, the Premier League feel that they want the best players in their world in terms of what they think are the best players in the best clubs, with the best facilities, with the so-called best coaches, with the so-called best games programme. And we know that football and footballers don't develop that way. Mikel Antonio came from non-league. Footballers, there's more than one way to get to the end goal. Not every player that's in Manchester City's academy will play international football, will play for Manchester City, or will have a career in the game. But there's a snobbery now that is that Millwall's a Cat 2 academy. So Cat 1 academies are better than Cat 2 academies. We're a Cat 3 academy. So Cat 2 academies are better than Cat 3 academies, and so on and so forth. And it's a myth. For me, yes, the better players or the more competent players probably are at the stronger clubs through they just hoover up players now. But it's opportunity and pathway. And I think, definitely at MK Dons, we got, our first year scholars, so they're U16, U7, our U17 players train with the first team, and some play for the first team in the cup games to get that experience. And so, now I think it's just too long a process. You go from the under 16s to the under 18s to the under 23s to then a loan move to then make a first team appearance. And I think there's probably just too many players in the game now that are not going to have careers. Whereas, like you said, the South East Counties model is very simple. You did that, you got a professional contract, or you didn't. We didn't have so many players and so much noise around the game.
It's been brilliant to hear from you tonight, John. And before you go, we'd like a prediction for our game at the Majeski this weekend versus Reading, where you were appointed initially after you hung your boots up as a sports scientist.
Well, there was a merry band. Steve Coppell, Wally Downs, Kevin Dillon, Nigel Gibbs, myself, Sal Bibbo, the goalkeeping coach, and then the medical team. And it's 106. We had 2 seasons that I was incredibly lucky to work at some good clubs, having packed up at a young age. And I remember meeting Steve Coppell in the summer. He had this Hawaiian shirt on. He's quite an interesting character, Steve. And he felt the team was close. The sports scientist had moved on. He'd gone with Alan Pardew to that club that we will not name. And there was a great opportunity for me to come in, and real young, hungry side. And we went on this amazing run. We lost the first game of the season against Plymouth. 30 games undefeated, was promoted by March, won the league with 106 points. It was just wonderful season. Stayed another season. We finished 8th in the Premier League, and then I moved on. I guess the old Rolling Stone gathers no moss. I don't like to stay still for too long at clubs. You get a little bit burnt out. But yeah, I've got very soft memories for Reading. And listen, of course, Millwall was always, my first love, and my the club that I had the most enjoyable time. So I'll sit on the fence and say a draw, and I think probably a draw we take because Reading are a very strong side at the moment. So I think I'll play safe on that one. Sorry, Eamonn.
That's reasonable, John. You won't be the only one who says that tonight, for certain.
Yeah.
Anyhow, John, thanks again for coming on the show. All
Real
the best
pleasure.
to you, and hopefully we can catch up for more stories from your footlocker in a not too distant future.
Be a real pleasure. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
All the best, John.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Well, we'll take a break there before we listen to a fan who can call a former Lion, Paul Stevenson, and last week's guest, Benjamin Bloom, his mates. But first, here is the Bromley Wanderer, Stan's best mate, Kai Bennett, and his Millwall fan, TV.
Hello, I'm Kai. I run Millwall Fan TV. I have done for about a year and a half now. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. If you just search in Millwall Fan TV, I should come up. You can also find me on YouTube at Millwall Fan TV. I do pretty-much predictions, post-match analysis and full-time reaction. I also try to do as many interviews on ex-Millwall players. I've done about 10 so far and I've absolutely loved every minute of it. Thank you so much for all your support. And if you want to subscribe to Millwall, my channel, it's Millwall Fan TV. All your support is always massively appreciated. Thank you.
I'm Eamonn Barclay, and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of Bethany Warren, Stan Godwin and Jeff Burnige. Great to listen to Kai. A little known fact is that Kai and our Stan became great pals over the recent transfer window. Isn't that right, Stan?
It certainly is. Certainly is.
There you go. Well, our second guest tonight started following Lions in the 60s, but despite that, we have not got Brian King back to make another cameo appearance this week. He originally hailed from Blackheath, but moved over the hump to Welling. Millwall has certainly been a family experience for him, and he has enjoyed both the ups and downs all along the way. As I said earlier, he can call a former Lion, Paul Stevenson, and last week's guest, Benjamin Bloom, his mates. Let's welcome David Donovan.
Good evening, everyone.
All right, Dave?
Yeah, all good.
Evening, Dave.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, they'll tell you who they are in a minute, so you'll find
I think
out.
I could guess which one was Beth.
Yeah, it's not a difficult one, that one. But yes, although Stan can sound... Well, I won't say anything now, but anyhow, David,
I'll be interested to hear about that, yeah.
Yeah. How did you come to follow the Lions, and what are your earliest memories, mate?
Well, I'm one of 5 boys, and my dad, as we all was getting older, took us down there with a couple of his mates. They used to park in Deptford High Street, and we used to have to walk the rest. And we all went over the years, and it carried on. It's like once you become part of the family, you don't move. You can't change a team. And I've now got 4 boys, and they've all been as well. And it's just an ever-growing family for Millwall. Shame more don't go, to be fair, when we see our crowds. We proved it at the Wembley appearances. We could get 50,000. But there you go. But yeah, ups and downs, certainly more downs than ups, I bet. But it's been good. I wouldn't change it for the world.
And what's your earliest memory?
I was thinking about earlier. I can remember sort of bits and pieces, but probably my first proper memory was Leicester in the Cup.
Oh yeah.
Going back late 60s, I think it was. And if I looked it up today, there was nearly 32,000 people in the old ground. And I was down the very front, obviously as a little one, and I nearly passed out. And they picked me up and took me over and I don't know where my dad was at this time, but they took me up and took me into the ambulance room, down the dressing room entrance, and kept me in there until I was all right, and then took me back out and put me back over the wall. So that's my earliest memory, and we lost 1-0.
Yeah, we did, sadly enough. We did.
That was January 69, Dave.
Oh, thanks very much. Makes you feel even older.
Yeah, I remember that guy. I've got a feeling someone put a bad back pass in and they scored from it. Maybe Len Glover. Anyone remember him at Leicester?
Yeah, I remember Len Glover. I remember him at Charlton as well.
I may have got that wrong. Dave, it's Jeff here. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, leg glove was at Charlton, that's right. I think that was the last time they ever put one past us.
You're probably right, I think. Yeah.
They are desperate to beat us, so we'll have to watch them whenever we play them. But,
we always do, but it's just funny. It's funny now.
They're desperate to beat us, though, aren't they? So you followed the Lions for a good many years. I've got a couple of questions. A lot of people like to ask the same questions. Who do you think is the standout manager in all the time that you've been following the Lions, and maybe also your best player in those times as well?
Well, I'll do it in reverse because the easiest one, without a shadow of a doubt, best player is Teddy. Although I wasn't too happy when he went over to the dark side later in his career, but for us, he was unbelievable. I remember him playing against Charlton. I'm not sure. I think it was a night game, and I went, and Charlton completely outplayed us, and we won 3-0. And I'm pretty sure he got a hat-trick of headers one Tuesday or Wednesday night or something. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. He was, Teddy. So I know, like Keith Weller was up there with a lot of people, but I don't really remember him too much. I was there when he played, but I don't remember him too much. But yeah, certainly he was the best. Manager-wise, I was having a look today, for enough, at our managers, and we've had, since I've been going, most of our managers have not been proper managers, if that makes sense. They've been, like Macca and Rhino come in and people like that. They've done a job, but they wasn't fully qualified managers. But the ones we've had have always done a really good job, apart from one who I'll come to. So first of all, there was Mark McGee, who came in after with Rhino and Macca. There was a good squad. He managed them properly and got us up without a doubt. The great Kenny Jackett, fantastic manager, I thought he was. And the only one who I thought would have been a great manager, but I don't know what went wrong, was Ian Holloway. Really strange, that one. I don't get it. So out of all those, probably I'll go with Kenny Jackett as our best manager over a few years,
So, yes, it's Bethany, not Stan.
Hi, Bethany.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting that Eamonn said earlier that you're mates with both Paul Stevenson and Benjamin Bloom. So how did that happen?
Well, I'll do reverse first, again, if I may. Benjamin Bloom, my brother, I've got 4 brothers. One passed away last year in January 2020, all Millwall supporters. And my brother in Canada was just hunting around for different podcasts and started listening to Benjamin Bloom's and was talking one night on a Zoom meeting with the brothers, the ones that are left, and said he's looking for sponsors. Why don't we sponsor one of his programs in memory of our brother? So we all agreed to do it, but one of my brothers was a little bit reticent because he had no idea who this Benjamin Bloom was. I'd actually looked him up and listened to him and thought, yeah, he's good. He's very knowledgeable about what he speaks about. So my youngest brother was a bit, I'm not so sure whether I want to do it. So we had a Zoom meeting to discuss it. So I'm a bit of a prankster. So I direct messaged Benjamin Bloom on Twitter and said, I'm one of the lads who are looking to sponsor you. Any chance I could have a chat? And he replied straight away, and I said, look, we've got a Zoom meeting. Could you hide in the background and then come out and surprise my brother when we're discussing you, just for a bit of a laugh? And he was like, yeah, of course I will. So 10 minutes into our Zoom meeting, my youngest brother, I confided in what was going on, spoke to my oldest brother, John, who wanted to do it, and said, who is this bloke? I've never heard of him. He don't, it could be anyone giving him our money. So my brother John got quite upset that he was challenging his thoughts. So he started having a go at my brother, and in the end we just let Benjamin Bloom suddenly come on our Zoom meeting, and he was pissing himself. Oh, excuse my French. He was laughing his head off, and he stayed with us for about 40 minutes on our private little chat, and we had a great time with him. And we sort of kept in contact via Twitter and all that sort of stuff now. Not a great friend, but an acquaintance, and he wants to come down the den with me when we all can get back. So that'll be good. Yeah. Paul Stevenson is a much longer story, afraid. Obviously, you all know he scored on his debut up at Anfield, and I was there, but I didn't know him then. And I didn't know, but he was living in Slough with, I can't remember his name now. Who was the... Bob Pearson. Yeah, he was living with Bob, and he was getting fed up with travelling in and going back to somewhere he didn't know. And Alan McCleary said, I live in Welling, why don't you come and have a look over there? So he bought a house in Welling with Amanda, his girlfriend at the time. And I used to like a bit of a punt on the horses, and so did he. And I went into my local betting shop one day, and it was strange. I just heard this accent, and it was really weird. I was thinking, I couldn't not work out who it was. I didn't recognise the face at all. And I was just standing there, and it was really getting to me, didn't you? And I thought, surely it can't be Paul Stevenson, not the Millwall player. So I went over and said hello and introduced myself and said, we worked it out, that it was him, obviously. And I owned a couple of greyhounds, and I said to him, fancy going out with my wife and your girlfriend? I'm a bit older than him as well. I said, we'll go ground racing. I'll get a table on a Saturday night, we'll have dinner. And he went, yeah. So I came back to my house and told my wife what we were doing. He went back to his house and told Amanda. Both women went, what are you, mad? Inviting some strange bloke out of a betting shop to go out for dinner down a dog track on a Saturday night. So the four of us went anyway. And, well, we've been best pals ever since. They're godparents to one of my kids, and we're godparents to one of his. I actually spoke to him this morning. He's just been appointed assistant manager at Kilmarnock. So it's brilliant. They lost last night. But yeah, he's been out of work now for probably a year to 18 months since he lost his last job. So yeah, it's brilliant with Tommy Wright.
Wasn't he coaching at Middlesbrough or somewhere like that before?
He was the under-23s manager, and he's at Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
And he was told his job was to bring kids through. I used to keep in contact with an awful lot about it, and he had 5 kids there ready to play, but they wouldn't play them. They would not play the kids. And when their 3 years parachute money ran out, they had to cut all cloths, and he lost his job. It was as quick as that. He couldn't believe it. Even Jonathan Woodgate, who actually got the job as manager at the time, he said, there's no way they can get rid of you. You're doing a brilliant job. But it's the money that talks, and I suppose with his wages that they needed someone cheaper in. Not that he was that expensive, I know. But so he lost his job there for no fault of his own, just the money situation.
Well, Dave, it's Jeff here again. When you next speak to him, wish him well from me, and tell him that I haven't forgotten some of the things he got up to on that Australia and trip. He will remember. He fancied himself as a singer, I'll say that. He wasn't as good as he thought he was, though.
Well, that depends who you listen to, obviously. Because I tell you what, there was a Millwall this has just come into my memory. When Millwall, Colin Cooper did a player's profile in one of the programs, and one of the questions was, who would you most like to sing a duet with? And he chose Paul. So there you go.
Oh.
He could have had Sinatra or anyone, but he chose him.
Yeah, Stan here, mate.
Stan.
Yeah, great to talk with you, Dave. What are your thoughts on our current stint in the Championship and Millwall under the management of Gary Rowett?
Well, if I'm being honest, I think we are... if we finish halfway every season, we've got to be pleased. I'm one of those pessimistics. I do look down most of the time who's below us and how far we're clear the last few years. Gary Rowett, I'm a fan. I watched games early this year when the confidence was well. We was playing football that I've never seen down Millwall in donkey's years. Playing out from the back, quality stuff. Everyone was on fire, and we could actually score the odd goal or two as well, which is, I know the final third is where we've really struggled. But I know he's working his best. And you can't fault it from the keeper, the back four, the midfield boys. We could do a bit more going forward, a bit more aggressive going forward. But when we play football, we look really good. And I was brought up on Sheringham, Cascarino, Morrison, Gregory, that sort of era. So I'm really pleased to see it, and I'm glad hopefully we've got over a slight bump in the road, because his confidence must have been going low. And I know there's people been after him to be kicked out, but not for me. No, I'm a good Rowett fan, and I put him in that category with McGee and Kenny Jackett. I think this guy knows his stuff, and we've done well. Berylson's done a brilliant job in getting him. And by the way, what a chairman! You can't argue that. No offence to anyone else, Jeff. You know, he's a brilliant chairman for us.
David, he's unbelievable, and I can take pleasure in that. I think the first person at Millwall he actually met, the first director he actually met was me, and I played a bit of a part in getting him in. So I can take pleasure in that. But what an amazing man and an unbelievable chairman. We're so grateful, I think.
Oh, we'd have to be. It'd be anyone who would. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say a bad word about him. No matter what's happened, you know, nobody. Everyone realises, the proper supporters realise anyway. You know, there's no small task he's taken on for all these years, and you know, it's cost him a lot of his own personal money as well. And you know, they don't get too much out of it, I don't think. You know,
just a little bit of joy. Just a little bit of joy.
Well, that's all we all go for, don't we? We don't do it for all the joy because we're never going to get loads and loads of joy.
We can't manage that.
We do get a bit. But so I had quite a lot down there, quite a lot of involvement, especially when Paul was around, because he used to get me. I used to get invited on a few of the players' trips. We went to Ascot once, and PFA Awards dinner they took me to the lads one day. I went to with them. You know, it was great. That was really good to me. I've got a lot of time for that squad. That was a sort of, what was that, about 1990, I suppose, that was.
Yeah.
You know.
Fantastic times, David. Well, it's been great to eventually catch up with you. The time that we've just spoke there has just shot by, so we'll have to catch up with you yet again, not too far in the distance.
Well, I've got a good Reg Burr story, so...
Have you? Oh, right. Well, you'll have to come out with that one, because old Jeff will find that very entertaining, I'm sure.
As long as you haven't got a good Jeff Burnige story, I'm relaxing now.
You might be implicated, Jeff. You might be implicated.
I'll get a good story on you, though, Jeff. I'll speak to him and get a good story on you.
I've kept all my misdemeanours very quiet. Don't you worry about that.
Miss who? Oh, that's it. Yeah, okay, right.
Good lads.
David, before we say goodbye and see you the next time, it's a tradition that we ask all guests for a prediction for the next game. So what do you think the score will be when we travel to Reading this weekend?
Very difficult game. I know they got beat by Brentford, who are probably one of the best sides in that division by a mile. I fancy we do well. I think we get a 2-2 draw, I fancy. They're a good home side. But I think now Kent's got a goal and got a bit more confidence. I fancy him. And Jed seems a bit more back on form as well. So I want to go 2-2.
2-2 it is. That's the second draw of the night. We'll see where we go from there. David, thanks. We wish you and your family all the best. Take care and stay safe.
And you, Jeff, Beth, and you, Stan. Nice to meet you all.
Cheers, Dave.
Good night, David.
God bless, guys, girls. Bye-bye.
Don't forget our fan in the dugout, Sean Ash, from 2 weeks ago. He was inspirational in walking round the den Tuesday week back. And don't forget, you can help Sean, help the London Ambulance Service, NHS Trust. Just put Sean Ash, Just Giving, into your browser. And a link will take you to the page to make a donation. So come on, one and all. Help him make a big difference. We will take a break there before we look ahead to our up-and-coming fixtures. But for now, here's Bethany Warren and Be My Eye.
Hi, Bethany Warren here. Millwall Lionesses have partnered with international smartphone application Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes is an application that truly benefits the poor of sight and the blind, but is supported by those of us that can see.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to first available number.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Print image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
Be My Eyes is displayed on the Lionesses shorts this season. Download the app onto your smartphone now and help those that need your eyes straight away.
I'm Eamonn Barclay and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of Bethany Warren, Stan, Godwin and Jeff Burnige. I successfully used the app. If you have, just let us know by sending an email to studio@noonelikesUstalking.com. That's all lowercase and talking is without a G. studio@noonelikesUstalking.com. And George, our patriarch, has some show memorabilia left for a few responders. There are 5 more opportunities to win No One Likes Us Talking memorabilia, so get your emails in. Well, it's time to look ahead to what's coming up next for our Lions. But first we will hear from that video sensation, Ellis Barr. And I must thank Ellis today for the wonderful birthday wishes that she sent me by video.
Hi everyone, Ellis here. Thanks for watching my videos and thank you for all the support. But now it's time to look ahead to your next match. Come on, Millwall!
That's right, come on Millwall. Thanks Ellis. Well, our Henry Statto, as Gary's phrased him, Morgan, is up next with Simeon Pickup of the Tilehurst End Podcast as the fan from the opposition. Let's hear what they have to say ahead of the game. But if you can spot the deliberate mistake within the first 30 seconds of this, George will send you some memorabilia too.
Tonight on View from the Opposition we're speaking to Simeon Pickup from the Tilehurst End Podcast. Welcome Simeon.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Reading, since our first meeting in 1921 we've played each other 106 times, which is a lot of times. It's almost the same number of miles as the Medeski is from Reading train station. Earlier this season we drew 1-1 at the Den, but Reading currently sitting quite a number of places above Millwall in 5th, having won 14, lost 8, drawn 6 on 48 points. A midweek loss to Brentford in what I hear was a topsy-turvy game. Simeon, do these numbers sort of reflect your season, or is there a story there that we're not picking up?
Bizarre season for us, really. Obviously took the division by storm in the first 8 games, winning 7 of them, and we've just been kind of inconsistent since then, and we've done really well to keep going with injuries mounting and us not really being able to put out our strongest side that often. But it does reflect, I guess, the quality in this side and the optimism, the attacking quality that we just haven't had in the last couple of years, and hopefully we can keep it going.
You mentioned the quality that you've got. Who do you think Millwall need to be really wary of?
Certainly Lucas Shaw is capable of coming up with a really good goal even on an off day, to be honest with you. He's that kind of striker that just has a moment of magic in him. You get the ball into his feet kind of in and around the box and he's capable of getting in behind and pulling the trigger, or just absolutely leathering it from outside the box. Otherwise Michael Elise as well, really an attacking, often as a number 10, to really kind of open up teams, and did that really well against the Den with a really nice assist for Zhao kind of around the corner to sneak in and behind. And it's that kind of attacking spark that we are going to need against Millwall on Saturday. You're going to make yourselves hard to beat, and it's going to be up to us to break you down, to unlock your defence. And if Elise can do that, then that gives us a big chance, really. Otherwise, Oviajari, for similar reasons, he's played a lot more than he might have in other years. but he's been just inconsistent, really. But on his day, he's really capable of, like Elise, having that creative spark and that moment of magic to win a game, basically.
Yes, interesting you're mentioning consistency. I think that there'll be a few Millwall fans listening to this go, yeah, we know exactly what you mean about inconsistency, although the result against Sheffield Wednesday last Saturday was probably maybe slightly overblown. I think we definitely did deserve to win, but 4-1 was maybe a bit flattering. Is there anyone from Millwall's team that you are particularly wary of? Anyone that's caused you issues, in the past potentially?
We have a thing at Reading for former players scoring against us, so it's a little bit of a worry that you've got a couple in your team. Jake Cooper's a guy who's really kind of highly regarded in these parts, given that he came through our academy, and he's still very popular, and I see he's done very well for you, and obviously a massive set-piece threat. John Daddy Bodvarsson, I think he's not really quite got going for you, but I seem to remember him scoring in a 2-0 win, I think it was last season.
Yeah, that's right, I remember it. I think that actually was the last game that I saw at the Den. Yet to get going, I think, is a good description.
Yeah, I was at that game actually, and you just kind of bullied us basically, and it was probably one of our most kind of cowed, intimidated performances of the season, and Millwall are capable of doing that, particularly at the Den, and I know we've had a bit more luck at the Medeski against you, but I think Millwall away has particularly been one of my least favourite fixtures of the season, because you tend to come up with that, and another star player of yours that has really caused us problems, Jed Wallace, I think he scored at the Medeski last season, I think, with an individual goal, and Boxing Day free kick 2018, really good goal. It was another manager's first game of his time at Reading as well, and Wallace just has that kind of ability to just come up with a moment.
What are you feeling about Saturday? What's your score prediction?
Ultimately, it's on us to break you down and to get chances and to go and win the game, and we've had a little bit of difficulty with that, and although I think we're going to have the quality to do it, it's going to be quite tight, and I could see it being a 2-1 win for Reading, but a game that kind of is very much in the balance for a lot of it.
Well, there we have it, a game that's in the balance, a 2-1 win for Reading. Best of luck after Saturday for the rest of your season, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Cheers, you too, and thanks for having me.
Well, that was nice to hear from Henry, somewhere on a motorway in England. But the interesting bit that was missed out there, of course, is that our man Evans, who's come from into us from Derby, is also a former Reading player. He and Jake Cooper were very pally, so that's an extra one that we've got. So some interesting facts and views, and I hope you picked up on the boob at the beginning of the interview, and views there that. Do they affect any of the thoughts that you guys already have about Saturday's game?
I don't think so. I think with every game, like I would like to see the same team that we saw last week, but I suppose that would probably depend on how Keaton Bell and Leonard are. But I would try and keep Zohore up front, and I would also try to keep Ben Thompson in the team, as we were saying earlier. I really think he is a real key part of the team at the moment. I mean, you look at last weekend, 4-1, anything can happen. So, I'm in good spirits about this weekend, actually.
Thanks, Beth.
For me, I'm rather looking forward to this game. The only thing I would say is that he's unlikely to be able to keep the same team, because I understand today that Ryan Lennon has picked up an injury, and the latest I've heard is that he could be out up to 2 months. Whether that turns out to be the case or not remains to be seen. But no, I think that we've got an excellent chance on Saturday. I think it's all now beginning to go in the right way. The only thing that concerns me is that, and I wouldn't care who the manager is, because you can't legislate for this. But we just seem to be, this season, we just seem to be injury prone, don't we? We get over one bloke getting injured, he comes back, and then, before they play when they play the next game, somebody then goes down with one and they're then out. I mean, we've had this new guy coming from Birmingham, he's now injured. And it's just a bit of a nightmare. I have to wonder why that is. Is it because of the way we're playing these games? Because it just seems more, these players that are going down injuries, they're not injury prone in any way, shape or form. But it just seems to be happening. But no, I'm confident that we'll overcome.
Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm like Bethany and Stan. I'm really looking forward to the game. I mean, we are in good form. We've been playing well for 5 games now, but I think it's unfortunate that Ryan Leonard's got injured. He has won over the Millwall fans that didn't take to him immediately when he first arrived. I think he's become a very, very good and popular player. A lot depends for me on whether Michael Kieftenbelt, I've been practicing that one. If he's playing, I'll be happy. But he was taken off injured last Saturday. Jed Wallace didn't even play, did he, last week, if I remember correctly? So he should be fresh. Jake Cooper, I'm glad to hear that George Evans has played with Jake Cooper before, because if he plays in the back 3, it's nice to know that he can bed in quickly, because what's happened in the last 5 games is that our defence has gone back onto top form. They're all playing well, and I'd like Kieftenbelt to be in the midfield, I must say, and I'd like to see Jed Wallace back. I don't think we'll lose. I don't think we'll concede 2. Could be 1-1, but I wouldn't be shocked if we don't go and win again. Do you want a forecast or not?
We will, but I'll take your one last. You might influence people, Jeff.
I don't think so.
Oh, 3-1 to us.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going for it.
Stan?
I will go 2. I'll go 2-1.
2-1. Jeff?
I'm going to be a bit cautious and go 1-1. It would be influenced if Kieftenbelt is fully fit. Then the midfield 3 would be Woods, Kieftenbelt and Thompson probably, and I'd be happy with that. Take Kieftenbelt out of that and no Ryan Leonard either, and I wouldn't be quite so confident. So I'm going to say 1-1.
Okay. So there's no rest for the Lions this week as we welcome Birmingham to the Den next Wednesday. Wednesday for a change at the Den. That's odd. We were held to a goalless draw up at St Andrews at the back end of November, when the highlight of the match was an overhead kick from that man, Ryan Leonard, which deserved to be our winner, but ended up being met with an incredible save by their keeper. You would think our Dutchman, Michael Kieftenbelt, will be looking forward to this one, but we don't know whether he'll play or not. I've got my feelings that he might not. But is Billy Mitchell hanging about there in the background? He's a possibility, I think. It was purposefully that he was taken off at half-time in the under-23s, so he may be back in the squad. So you'll never know. But here it comes. There we are. We're playing against Birmingham. Bethany, what's your view?
Again, I'm just super positive at the moment. After seeing the game last week, I really just do think anything can happen. So I've got, again, some more high hopes going into this one.
Okay, then. Stan?
No, I fancy us to pick up the maximum points against Birmingham at the Den. Because Birmingham, for one reason or the other, I mean, they was considered to be sort of one of the favourites. I don't quite understand why that would be the case, but they was. And but for one reason or the other, their season has not got going yet. And not that I'm an advocate of it, but I'm rather surprised that their manager has not had to pay a price for that.
Jeff?
Home win, 1-0 or 2-0.
Okay, reverse order. Stan, your prediction?
2-0.
Bethany, yours?
2-1.
Well, that looks like 3 points in the bag. I'd support that. I'm a bit keen, like Jeff is. I perceive a draw at the Majewski, but you never know. We may run out winners and be bouncing around with many points over 2 games. Don't forget, you can hear Henry reviewing Saturday's match. Their links will be available on our social media sites and Spreaker. But for now, we'll take a break there for what is more important message now more than ever from Patricia Maslin, with an introduction from that young man, Harvey Brown, who turned 12 this week. Hope you had a great day, Harvey.
Hello, Harvey Brown here. I missed my football at the Den. Did you know Millwall Community Trust are continuing to help people of all ages from different walks of life and are doing so much good in these tough times? But they need our help. Here's Patricia to tell you more.
Oh, thank you for that intro, Harvey. Millwall Community Trust appreciates your support. You are a star. Hi, Patricia Maslin here. Whether you're an organisation with bodies able to assist or an individual, the Trust needs you during the current conditions to support the vulnerable and needy. If you can help make a difference or need help, please contact Sean Daly, the Trust's Chief Executive Officer, by phone on 07 958 027060. Once again, that's 07 958 027060. Or contact by email sdaly, I'll spell that, SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. I'll repeat that, sdaly, SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. If you can, or you know someone or any organisation who might be able to help, please let the Community Trust know. Thank you.
I'm Eamonn Barclay and I'm back with a No One Likes Us talking team of Bethany Warren, Stan Godwin and Jeff Burnige. People continue to lose their lives to this dreadful virus or as a consequence of suffering with it. Deaths and infections continue at incredible rates, whilst unbelievable numbers of people continue to be hospitalised too. Our thoughts go out to the victims, their families, friends, and those that take care of them.
There are so many fans who want to support the club, and you can help by joining the Lions Loyalty Club. It costs £40 with benefits. For £25, you or a member of your family can also become a crowdie, and why not sponsor a player's kit at the discounted rate of £450? That's £130 off with all the benefits. You can also obtain a virtual mascot package for £104. Also watch out for the virtual match sponsor packages, which will shortly be released. All the details and more can be found on the Millwall website. Lastly, don't forget iFollow returns to our screens with Carl Bates and Max McClellan on Saturday against Reading. 100% of what you pay, less taxes, for the internet streaming service, home or away, goes back to Millwall Football Club. It's a fantastic way to improve their revenue in these challenging times.
Next Friday, Gary staff host Patricia Maslin, George Lampy and Henry Morgan. In the meantime, Scott Johnson, the founder of the Proper Blokes Club, is still looking for guys to come along and join him to break the stigma of men's mental health with walk and talk groups. Being in lockdown means walks will continue, but on a one-to-one basis. Check out the Proper Blokes Club on Twitter and Facebook for further details. And don't forget to get behind Sean Ash, Millwall fan and London Ambulance Service call handler on his walking challenge for the LAS NHS Trust. Simply insert Sean Ash, just giving details into your browser, and a link will take you to the page to make a donation. Good night.
Don't forget, everyone, neither the Millwall Lionesses nor the Romans are actually playing football under the present restrictions. The Lionesses are still available for player sponsorship. Why not share the burden between a few of you, or even a couple of you? Give them valid support. It'll be most helpful. You can find details on their website. Just put Millwall Lionesses into your browser, and you'll find them easily enough. We have led by example, and no one likes us talking sponsors the captain, Libby Stubbs, as you heard earlier. Good night, everyone. Enjoy the next 2 games.
Yeah, just a point on that. We picked up a couple of shirts from the Lionesses because of our sponsorship of Libby Stubbs, and they've been signed by the whole team. And that's a red and white one and a green and white one. So we'll have a competition coming up, and you can win one of those shirts all signed by the Lionesses. Lastly, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there. Follow the lockdown guidance, social distancing when outside, and a face mask when necessary. That's it from me. Thanks Bethany, Stan and Jeff and our guests. Until the next time, good night.